Well, good morning, you tuberubers and tuberettes alike. I take my hat off to you. It's a short talk by the Rio with an old guy. Now, if an old guy shows up, we'll interview him, right? But in the meantime, you'll just have to do with me. My name's Mike. Come on in, sit down, have a beer, whatever. And I had to turn around because the light is pretty fierce this way. So what I figured is you don't need to see me. So anyway, I figured I'd let you see what I'm looking at. This is the Rio down here. Now I'm going to see if I can shrink. Yeah, it makes it look bigger or something. Anyway, yeah, here comes another bicyclist. There's a real nice trail here, and you've been here before. If you've watched my videos, I like doing getting the heck out of town for a few minutes and down by the Rio. Now the river has been turned off upstream, so it's a mere ghost of itself. And actually there's a sewage plant for the city over there that turns about a 2-mile stretch, and it's right through here. Later on in the winter I'll maybe film that when you know there's no water coming from Caballo. And it's the little quasi Rio that's there all the time. It's the effluent off the plant. Blech. So it has a kind of a funky aroma. But there's still wildlife out there. It's weird. There's birds and stuff, even in the winter. So anyway, something about this area down here is called the bosque, and I think the bosque means all them trees and junk, but that tells you about how much Spanish I know. I was going to just like swing around here. I hope I don't blind you. That's the Oregon Mountains off to the east. And although it looks like the sun, that's really a weird photo. Never mind. It's a cloudless day overhead. I don't see even one. And I just thought I'd chit-chat with you some and think about things. And the thought I had, now, old guys do come up with oddball ideas sometimes, okay, so don't be too shocked. But when I was a kid growing up in Albuquerque, which is about 230 miles north of here, on the Rio, on the same river, my mom and my older brother informed me, I guess I must have been about 8 or 9 years old. If you look at, TV of the time and in the mid-60s, the idea of quicksand was, it was kind of a plot twist thing that was used. It became kind of a regular ordeal, Someone gets stuck in quicksand and inevitably they just start sinking. And of course, the harder they thrash around, the more certainly they go down. So the idea of quicksand has pretty much gone away. I don't think anybody even talks about quicksand anymore. But I remember my mom was talking to me, and then my older brother reinforced this idea that if you're down by the river, see, it's real dangerous to be by the river, there could be quicksand. So if you get into it, here was the advice, all right? Don't thrash around. Don't try to fight it. You'll have to wait for someone else to pull you out. And I thought, what is this stuff? I mean, first of all, that mud, how deep is it anyway that it would pull you under? And what are you doing in a mud puddle that deep anyhow, you knucklehead? But anyhow, I didn't understand why they were informing me of the relative danger involved of going to the Rio. But at any rate, I got to thinking about quicksand and what a kind of a crazy idea that would be. To actually try to, market the concept. And yet, looking at the way that, say Friday went, Friday was at work was just horrendous. It was like, I don't know how to describe it, but it was like a Monday, except more so. And we finally got through that rascal, but it was just one of those days where I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, what am I doing here? And it felt like quicksand. That was the connection I made in the middle of the night, is that when you're in a situation, and Friday for me was like that, where it's like everything I touched seemed to go wrong. I just wanted to shut the water down to the building. Well, we can't because the meter, you can't rotate the corporation stop because there's an outboard thing so they can lock the meter. Unfortunately, the box is too close. You can't get it past the box. So it's dumb. You can access it, but you can't shut it off there. So at any rate, it was just poorly done job. So I went back to the backflow prevention device and hit it above grade. And I believe that's poplar, I'm not sure. And hit it above grade on one of the ball valves and, well, proceeded to shut the system down. Hooray, we got it. All right, that's all we needed to know. Turn the water back on. I can't. What do you mean? The handle just broke off. What? The stem broke off with it. And so now we had to rebuild the backflow device with a new ball valve. But it was just one of those things where that's the way the day began, and it kind of went downhill from there. And it was just, by the time I got home, I was just whacked. And it didn't even occur to me during that whole ordeal that the advice Mom gave by walking by the Rio might have come in handy. In other words, we call to the living God. We're not in this alone. You're not in it alone, and you haven't ever been in it alone. Never. But it certainly felt like it, didn't it? But the point is, we're not in it alone, but we need someone who's standing, so to speak, on dry ground, who can lift us up and out of this mire. There's a guy named Van Til, Cornelius Van Til, and he has an excellent illustration, and I really think it's true. If you had a guy out in the middle of the ocean, and say he was an excellent swimmer or he had a good life jacket on, whatever, but he wasn't in danger of drowning, how does he get out of the water? And it's a little bit like that. So once you're buried in this stuff, my idea is to thrash harder. Drive, hit it harder with a bigger hammer. Make this baby go. But what I'm finding out at 66 is I don't have the strength for that stuff anymore. And I'm going to go the other way here just for the heck of it and kind of zoom you in. Well, gotcha. And I think I've mentioned before that the little raggedy tops there looks kind of like sawtooth stuff. Ostensibly looks like organ pipes, like, on an old-time organ. So, well, that's what somebody thinks. And I'm with the camera, folks. Sorry about that. At any rate, I got to thinking, when you're buried up to your hips in alligators and stuff, you don't think, hey, this would be a good time to stop and relax. When the what do you call it overhead? The valve broke overhead, and the water is spewing everywhere. And this is a finished house, by the way. You don't have time to sit down and say, breathe deep, relax. It's the Lord's Day. You're just like, do it, man, make it happen. And everything, you start pushing and pushing. And I got to thinking that so much of our world is set up like that, at least mine is, where the idea is to always be going quickly, run rapidly. When you hear of a sale at a retail establishment, what do they say? They say, hurry on in, hurry. Why am I hurrying? Go to hell, I'm not hurrying for you or anyone else. But the thing is that it's a part of an attitude, and I got to thinking that in terms of this hypertension of our society, where things are really getting tense, and it's like something's got to break here, When you have a big earth-filled dam, and the darn thing starts to move, you might want to get out of the way. That thing's going to blow. And, well, when we've got so many things cooking all at once, any one of which could, theoretically, cause a economic, social catastrophe, we've got a dozen of them, 15 of them maybe, I don't know. And and the most egregious in my mind is that there's really no one that the American people can go to except a few agents in government, perhaps Ted over there in Texas, perhaps, what's his name, Rand Paul, yeah, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul. There might be a half a dozen guys like that. There's a guy in Utah, Mike somebody, I forgot his name, supposed to be a good dude. In fact, this might be the rendered river, as it were. The sewage river flows by, but I don't smell anything. So anyway, the thing is, who knows what that water is? Got a lot of bikers out here today. Zoom. Yeah, so anyway, I was just sitting there thinking in terms of our world and this idea of being caught in quicksand. Hey, like, how much quicksand's out there, Ma? But that's just sand. You can get out and walk on it. The water runs, ankle deep, and the sand is sturdy. It's a sandy base. So I mean, sand doesn't just suck you down like a sponge or something. And but it is a good illustration of, I think, the way our world appears to be working, at least in my humble estimation. And you can tell that's humble because I just mentioned that part. Those plants across the way look like gigantic onions. You know, the little green onions, the bulb thing? About 15 foot tall. Got an onion about the size of a, I don't know, bushel basket. Anyhow, probably won't have to go eat too many of those. I just kind of wanted to chit-chat with you some and think in terms of this idea that if you're caught in a kind of a swirl, you look at the world, it looks like the whole thing's being sucked right down to hell. And it might be. And it's like, what's a guy gonna, what's a lady gonna do? What's anyone gonna do to deal with this? And I don't mean just process the information. I mean work to overthrow this, work to roll this back, work to make the SOBs who started this wish they'd never started it at all. We need to drive order into this sucker. Well, who's gonna do that? When, where, and why? And I don't see anyone on the horizon. Not even DJT. He's really being touted as a kind of an anti-establishment guy, but let's face it, that his first administration, I mean, he did some good things, he really did, but government continued to grow, debt continued to increase, and so in a way, when he comes right down to nickels and dimes and who's got the money and stuff, FEMA apparently doesn't have the money to fix America, but America has the money to go bomb the snot out of foreigners in order to make a profit, a military profit. That's what our government's all about. And it's somehow all that crazy-ass fighting, these forever wars that the Uniparty seems to keep backing. The situation is the boys, the girls, the men and women who died in uniform, so to speak, defending freedom, defending America. What the hell did that have to do with Iraq? What the hell did that have to do with Afghanistan? And a lot of these other little sorties that we've gotten into, the U.S. has a lot to answer for. It's become a wicked land. I hate to say it, but we're the bad guys. We're the bad actors on the block now. It used to be the bad guys were the Russians, we were the Americans, the good guys. Now it's somehow the Russians are. This is so strange. Everything seems to be upside down. But the thing is, this is no time to relapse into hopelessness or anything like it. We're on the winning side, and so I just kind of wanted to mumble some at you and give you some free and unasked for advice. That's what old guys will do, don't you know? And I'm looking at this situation out here in the world, and it really does bother me. It's like kind of gives you heartburn to look at it. And I don't know if there are things that a regular guy, I'm just a plumber in New Mexico. I'm not a world stage actor, right? People don't hang on what my words are, thank God. But the point is that what can one man or one woman do to drive order into this system in order to say, at least the territory I was responsible for was under the true and living king. The dominion of the Lord was acknowledged in my realm, however big of a realm that is. And I mean, I'm just responsible for me. I don't have a family, no wife, I mean. And so, in other words, what is it that we are, how far does your responsibility reach? How many people do you touch with your life? And how does those contacts work? So, anyway, I was just sitting there thinking that, well, we can all be involved in the cure in terms of walking with the Lord, kind of do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with the Lord. That's Bible stuff right there. And that is part of the contribution, or actually maybe the contribution that we're making in terms of all this, that would be a positive and let's say stabilizing effect, because what we're seeing here has to do with a tremendous sort of level of instability on the world stage. All of that instability, however tension-filled it appears, it was designed, it was built, and they built it for a reason. And the reason has to do with controlling people's minds and hearts, getting them to move according to fear, getting them to move according to threat, getting them to move according to the threat of being become an outsider, a nobody, a non-person. And so there's a power move involved, and it has to do with powers from down below moving somehow more and more closely into this world, being involved in so many things now that it's become almost the new normal. This sort of satanic, disgusting, occultic heresy being driven home into the minds of thousands of, maybe even millions of kids. There is no generation coming which is going to save the day. It's come down to this. Our institutions have failed, our families have failed, our governments have failed. And so the cure that they propose is to have a super government, a one family. And this is going to come a world globalism of some ilk, and I don't know when and where, but that's what they're building, is that they're attempting to build a uni-world. And the only way that they can do that is to have a common enemy among the nations. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, essentially. I think that was Sun Tzu in The Art of War. I think so. But anyway, the thing is that as we're looking at all of these things and we're thinking about what's going to happen next, or what should I do to prepare? Do I need to change my habits, or maybe move, go somewhere? What's going to happen with all these changes? And so it's easy to become nervous. Don't go there. Our answer has to do with the presence of the Lord as we call upon Him. His name is I Am Who Is Saving. That's His name. Yahshua. I am salvation. And so the baby boy was named by the announcement of the angel, and he has changed everything. So as we're looking at the chaos or the darkness of life and just the weirdness of it all, and you know how much suffering has to come, or at least you can get part of that idea, it's going to be terrible in many ways. But the point is that He has the victory. And so as we walk with Him in faith and saying so, confessing verbally, this one as King, this one as God, this one as the only hope of mankind, the only righteous man ever. Historically, there's one man across the race, around the world, who met the standard of law, and he was declared innocent of any crime. And so he was released from death. And he who rose up and was greeted gladly by his disciples and friends, warmly hugged, I guess, that same one is still in that same human body, and he's coming soon. He will be here, I don't know when, but I would not waste time coming. The urgent appeal of the gospel is that if you don't, there are dramatic, terrible consequences. Please, friend, don't go there. Just don't do it. You cannot win in a fight against your maker. Think about it. He has everything on his side, and the only reason you exist is by his will. You think you can whoop his ass? I don't think so. No, you ain't that good. So, have a good day. Get out and get some air. After you eat a big breakfast, go for a walk. You don't want all that stuff sitting on your stomach, bro. But the thing is that there's always hope. Even when things are beginning to look so bad that you can't remember what good looked like, we're going to go there, but with help. We will endure to the end, patiently awaiting one thing, Him, and to see His face. He changes everything. You guys have a good day. Let Him change you. How do you do that? Quit fighting the quicksand. You'll have to be pulled out.